So Amit, just to start, I think you made a very interesting comment as you were closing, which was really about the custom segment and how important you think it is when you're coming out with a solution. Is that a point you'd like to elaborate on a bit more?
Absolutely. I think specifically in payments industry, we often have a lot of regulations and other mandatory stuff that we have to implement that we don't think which customer segment will be positively or negatively benefited by it. And we just go ahead and do it. Even in cases where it's not mandatory, we end up making that mistake. For example, I was in Singapore a few months back, and in Singapore, you will start seeing that they put QR code stickers at stores and in taxis without thinking that if it's really required. It's a country or a city with highest EDC machine density. All the taxis have an EDC machine. All the stores have an EDC machine. So it's not really solving any problem, right? But because it's a buzzword in Asia, so people have started doing that. So I just want to emphasize that point that we should be customer backwards and think what customer or merchant needs, and then start building these solutions.
No, absolutely. Iryna, on your side, I mean, obviously, in your case, the customer, is it the consumer? Is it perhaps the hotels who are part of the platform? But how would you kind of relate to that point? I mean, you obviously went through a number of iterations to get the platform that you needed for payments, but were you looking at a very segmented view on your customers?
I think there is no way to look at a customer from one single point of view. You always need to fragment them and understand your customer better, obviously, whether you take it from a geographical approach or you take it from the device they're using, or also age, gender, whatever approach you decided to take, but you just need to know what your customer actually wants. In the current payments landscape, I think taking the country approach is essential, but obviously taking the approach from which device you're using and benefit from potential waste, whether when it comes to ACA or other flows, that's something we need to take into account. And platform just enables it, but then you need to have a dedicated department who actually focus on the guest experience and the customer experience and improves it and provide you feedback what actually your customer wants.
Absolutely. On your side, Donald, I guess your customers are slightly different types of organizations. It's more B2B, but can you give us a bit of a breakdown into your customer segmentation and how that works for Modo today?
Yes. So the global financial institutions that I referenced, right, 2 top 25 banks, potentially you may hear some more folks in that category coming in, both with commercial and potential investment relationships with Modo here over the coming quarter or two. Are one area where we start dealing with other payments players like MasterCard, Klarna, FIS, and PayPal are some others. And then the last category is the merchants, right? So we are sort of always one step removed from the end user and consumer, but as a provider of payments infrastructure, enabling interoperability between the various assets and systems for our clients, those are the natural folks for us to play with.
I mean, I think it's interesting that you pick up on that interoperability issue. And to me, in payments, certainly taking a merchant perspective, it sometimes must be very frustrating to see, how many different solutions are out there trying to do broadly the same thing, but no leverage that you can get between those different solutions.
That's the exact. You mentioned innovation earlier, right? The innovation we're bringing is exactly that, taking that lift away from the merchant, right, or away from that person that's going to need to go do one-off system-to-system integrations to all of these different methods of payments, all of these different acquirers and PSPs as you expand globally. That's not your business. Why not focus on sort of a single integration that can give you coverage to all of those different infrastructures on a global basis and be able to focus your efforts on your business itself?
Yeah, I think that also plays in to a slide. Iryna, RAFAEL, both of you put that up, and I liked it particularly because it showed, across Europe, how many different methods of payment. So are you facing that kind of interoperability issue as well, or was that the whole purpose of creating your own platform, not to face those sorts of issues?
In Europe, definitively, we see a lot of different payment methods besides the credit cards. So, for example, in Netherlands, where we are based, we have more customers paying with iDeals than with credit cards, if I remember correctly. And in Germany, likewise with the Fort. So we really have to be relevant for the customers and what are their preferred way to pay. And the same applies to our merchant side as well. Nowadays, if you go to a big hotel like a Marriott, anywhere in the world, it's likely that they will accept, for example, Alipay at the point of sale, because they are global. But if you go to a small villa or chalet in the Alps, they will not even have a point of sale. So we have to facilitate everything. And the main point there is being relevant on both sides, so the marketplace can grow and we can connect travelers and accommodations all over the world.
I mean, Amit, you were describing your issue, really going to face-to-face. You're obviously coming more from online. But is that something that you're also challenged with, the different types of ways of pay, or are you're becoming the way to pay? So do you have that issue of perhaps interoperability or supporting variety?
So we have a concern of supporting interoperability. We are an issuer of a prepaid instrument in India, a stored value account, and there is now new regulation that all the stored value accounts have to become interoperable. So it's something that if it becomes mandatory, we would implement. But interoperability is a double-edged sword. Sometimes we've seen that it kills innovation also. For example, the moment ATMs became interoperable, we saw that banks stopped deploying more ATMs, right? So it's important to get the commercial framework right. Like in the card transactions, we've got card. What is the acquirer's commission? What is the issuer's commission? So whenever we are mandating interoperability, that commercial framework has to be really solid for that to pick up. That is something that concerns us when I think of interoperability. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you mentioned acquirers and issuers there. So are you seeing them as key strategic partners? Is your first challenge trying to get those players on board, or do they come knocking at your doors?
So luckily, because of scale, they are ready to partner with us. Everybody's ready to partner with us. But we are unable to prioritize all the good ideas unless they meet the scale criteria that they will impact at least a certain percentage of our customers. So while we would love to partner with all of them, that remains a challenge for us, that unless they have scale, it probably does not justify the kind of effort an Amazon will have to put in deploying a new partnership.
Yeah, so you're looking for the ability to scale fast, yes, as far as I understand it. Just SUZANA, to bring you into the discussion, I mean, you obviously addressed issues to do with providing security, making it seamless, which are, some very worthy challenges. But what about scalability? Is there a scalability issue that you're seeing with 3D Secure right now?
We have a flexible business model that can scale up to many merchants. The more and also flexible pricing model. The more merchants the PSPs have, of course, it will be cheaper. Our direct customers are PSPs and merchants as well. We offer them support in the integration of our products. We offer them documentation, integration support, also end-to-end simulator, because if they're buying only one component of the 3D Secure, they can also test the whole protocol with this solution that we provide. We are also working on components that are defined in a by the EMVE Go in a specification, and they are globally accepted. So our clients can be from anywhere in the world, and they can connect to any other component because this is a global specification and globally accepted.
Okay. Well, I have to say 3D Secure is certainly attracting a lot of questions from the audience. So I don't know, how much the rest of the panel can really talk about 3D Secure, but are you very much focused on 3D Secure right now, Donald, in Modo?
Yeah, no, great question. So Modo's service, right, being a sort of B2B to C or B2B to B, right, again, playing in the infrastructure, means that we have to deal with any of the different elements or feature sets that are necessary to enable those use cases. So we have talked about 3D Secure, enabling barcodes and things like, so with Alipay, as well as Amazon Pay and other methods of payment. So when it comes to the card world, when it comes to Europe, 3D Secure, yes, is something that's out there. But we haven't had a lot of demand as yet from the folks that we're dealing with. Like, it's definitely come up in conversation, but not had to actually do deployments around it yet.
Right. You're nodding, Amit.
You should. So 3D Secure became mandatory in India about 12 years back.
Right.
And even today, we see that 1 in 4 transaction fails. All the optimizations everybody has put in, but 1 in 4 transactions still fails, and there's a lot of effort that we put in making that successful. If you ask customers, do they want 3D Secure or not, they will always say yes, because they feel in control. At least majority of the customers want to go through that friction because they feel in control. But it remains a problem for the whole industry to solve.
Right. Yeah, I mean the friction is obviously the key thing, and we're all very much focused on user experience today. I imagine in Booking.com, 3D Secure, you probably had that implemented for a long time, but has that been a challenge for your payment platform as a whole?
So yes, we do support 3D Secure, and we have plans for 3DS2 with SCA. However, as we are not really a merchant, and as you know, in PSD2 there are exemptions, we might benefit in some cases from the commercial agent exemption, because we are just passing money from customer to accommodation. Now, is it a good idea? I don't know, and I don't think that anyone can know at this point, because one of the benefits of 3D Secure is that it builds trust in the customer using the platform. The customer is accustomed of like entering a code or going through a certain journey. So if you present that same experience, you will have more trust, and with more trust, more return customers, more conversion. So even if we do not need to implement 3D Secure in all cases, under PSD2 regulations, we might want to do it for better trust.
And better trust converts to increased sales. So
yes,
I forget who mentioned that in their,
Yes.
their presentation, but obviously a good thought. Now, one of the questions from the audience, which I think is very interesting, is what is the percentage of end customers who are going to be challenged to put in a passcode according to what we see for 3D Secure? So, Suzana, maybe you're the best one to have a go at responding on that question.
That's the percentage of users, or how many percentage one user will be challenged?
Please explain.
I can answer both. Okay, so this is the risk analysis with all this device data is in the hands of the issuer. So this is actually what issuers want to do. I suppose we had with MasterCard meeting. In this case, they mentioned that in the first few months, they want to collect more data as possible, and then they can go with the frictionless flow. As for the other issuers, I'm not sure what their plans are, but this is still the benefit of EMV 3DS, and I suppose once this platform is adopted by acquirers, merchants, and issuers, they will get all this data, and this percentage will be low. At least at the beginning, when this protocol is adopted, we expect that there will be more challenges to the users, but once more data is collected, for example, if one user is paying from a certain device all the time, then it happens in the last month, then the issuer can decide not to have a challenge from the same device, the same location, and all our other device data that is collected by the SDK.
Mm-hmm. On the Booking.com side, are you seeing the need to enter codes on a high percentage of transactions as part of 3D Secure as well?
We're obviously looking in a way how we can benefit from the new protocol.
Right.
Actually, in general, 3DS is a interesting topic because majority of people are taking it as initially for the first version of the protocol as a fraud protection mechanisms, but you can also take it from another angle as an optimization mechanism as well, what 2.0 is trying to bring also. But even with 1.0, the way, if you want to go to particular markets, for example, if you want to process debit cards in Malaysia, they would be simply rejected just because issuers do mandate to have 3DS. Or if you want to process cards locally in India, that's also must to have. So bringing the 2.0 on board tries to even bring more awareness that 3DS is not just a fraud protection mechanism. It's something that can bring the trust to the checkout process. It's something that can optimize the way how checkout process is happening. So the way how we approach it is how we can benefit out of it, not just simply to be compliant with the PSD2 and SCA, but how we can take it on board and improve our customer experience regardless from which platform the payment is actually happening.
Mm.
Yes, so there are many benefits I already mentioned in the presentation on the issuer side, on the merchant side, and the acquirer side. I think they can all benefit with this EMV 3DS. And the most important thing is the customer trust and the great user experience which will increase the sales and the revenue for all of them.
So who is really pushing 2.0? Is this coming from the issuers, or is this coming from the scheme?
There is a PSD2 is asking for a strong authentication. All the transactions, at least in Europe, should be strongly authenticated by September 2019, and everyone should adapt to the new protocol in order for a transaction to happen. If only merchant buys a 3DS SDK and a server, that's not enough because the issuers will also need to, the schemes and the issuers will also need to support 3DS 2.0. So every component in which I explained, every component in the protocol needs to have this protocol adapted. And I think currently everyone is rushing into adapting it because everything depends on everyone. It just cannot be just on one side.
So, I mean, could you put a figure on what is the percentage readiness amongst the issuers, let's say?
I can't.
Okay, well, that's certainly, I think, one of...
They're all rushing into implementing it, but I don't have this number of every issuer.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. I think certainly from the audience, a lot of interest in trying to get to what is the state of readiness for 3D Secure right now. I mean, on your side, Amit, you obviously don't have quite the same regulatory framework in India that we have in Europe with PSD2. But are there other initiatives trying to achieve the same thing? Do you have someone else focused on SCA, for example?
So SCA, I think, is second factor authentication, right? Yeah, so as I said, that same 3DS, when I said I was talking about second factor authentication or multi-factor authentication only. So it became mandatory. It came like from the regulator that you have to do it for every transaction. So it's not selective. Every customer, for every transaction that is done on card, they have to do a second factor authentication. So that's where I was saying that 1 in 4 always fails. And we've made representations to regulator in multiple ways, that is, if there is an alternative to solve it and simplifying it. But there has been a rigidity in how exactly to do second factor authentication. I wish we could simplify it with more, representations.
Yeah. Well, sticking with India, another interesting question from the audience here. So, amazed to see the 85% of Indian e-commerce is actually on mobile. So the question is really, do you see India being a forerunner in all this? Is India setting the trend in terms of e-commerce usage on mobile phones?
Yeah, I think China and India both will be very similar numbers, and the reason for that is not that customers are very forward-looking. We never had that kind of density of laptops or desktops, so we kind of skipped that whole era, and people just got mobile phones without even going through the desktop and laptop journey, and that is primarily why it is happening. It's not because people are advanced. They don't have any other means to connect to internet or any other computing device.
Right.
Mobile is our computer, mobile is the wallet, and mobile is the bank. So it pretty much does everything for us.
I mean, if you look at it today, for example, when I'm booking on booking.com, that tends to be on the mobile app part of the time. Do you guys have a measurement on that? You must see how much people are using, mobile for booking versus desktop. Can you share those figures with us?
I do not have the actual numbers in mind, but we definitively see that first mobile is growing, and there's a large variation depending on the geography. So indeed, customers booking from India or China are very largely booking on mobile, while I would say that in Europe and US, you still have a dominance of desktop.
Interesting. Donald, on your side with Modo, you're obviously trying to support a lot of different flavors, a lot of flexibility in terms of payments, but do you get caught up in issues of, is it e-commerce on a desktop? Is it m-commerce? How does that affect your business, or is it largely transparent?
So that's part of the experience to me, right? So the way the consumer or a business is going to engage, whether that's through a mobile interface, whether that's through an e-commerce laptop, desktop type interface, Modo's perspective, we're rather agnostic. It's really tying together the back end of those artifacts to the infrastructure, the payment rails, the different methods of payment, the fraud platforms, risk platforms, business intelligence platforms, all of those different elements that are really much more under the covers in making all of that work seamlessly, right, in handling that secure exchange of data between any of those respective platforms, once again, creating interoperability for the clients that we work with.
So, interoperability is your key message, and that really is a worthy discussion, because at the end of the day, if solutions are more interoperable, you can deploy them faster, you can get scale. But is there a kind of another big innovation there?
Yes. Perfect tee up to talk about really, if I'm going to say it in one word, it's going to be transparency. And this is with respect to data, right? So I met with a number of the top 10 largest merchants on a global basis. And I'll give you an example for one of them, senior director guy within the payments infrastructure. And he said, right, out of the 10 different processor-acquirer type relationships they have on a global basis, they get their sort of monthly bill. These folks literally have over 150 analysts that break down all of that data on a monthly basis, go back through and comb through all that to recount money. So out of their 10 providers, 9 of them get sort of the transaction count and the financials wrong on a monthly basis, and 8 of those overcharge. So they claw back millions of dollars every single month from their providers, month in and month out. It's not like you catch them one month, they get it right the next month, and then, you know what I mean, you got to keep your eye on them for a while. It is month in, month out, and they have no ability to break down to a per transaction basis across all of their providers on a completely global basis, and to be able to look at that full life cycle of the payment, right? The auth, and all the different systems kind of have different senses of state around this. Like Boleto in Brazil has like a voucher-based system, so it's going to be very different than the standard card cycle of auth and capture and settle, right? So breaking down all of those little steps and elements is something that Modo sort of automates, and we're able to deliver transparency into all of that data across all of the various systems that help power the payments infrastructure for whether it be a merchant or the processor, acquirer, or banks that we're working with.
So it's really the end-to-end process that you're seeking to automate.
Yeah, and not being a processor ourselves.
Yeah.
But absolutely, yeah, the data that's associated with that full payment cycle.
Amit, on your side, where really are you pushing innovation right now? How is that building into Amazon Pay?
Yeah, so these face-to-face merchants that I talked about, doing merchant acquisition at that scale, we've not done that globally, and it's the problem that we are trying to solve for the first time in India. So building tools to achieve that kind of scale and making it a low-cost process. So there's a lot of innovation that is going in there. We're making dedicated apps for feet-on-street agents where they can go and onboard these merchants in literally 5 to 10 minutes and put a QR code sticker and move on. So a lot of innovation going on scaling those operations.
Right. I think scale, obviously on Booking.com, you focused a lot of your presentation on scaling up the platform. But what about innovation on your side? Is there a significant new feature that you're building into that platform which you think, will revolutionize the customer experience?
I think so. Booking.com vision and that we put customers at the center of everything we do. And our main focus when whatever we develop is in payments is to make sure that this payment process will be invisible actually for the guest. Because what we're trying to achieve is to increase the lifetime of the user on our platform. So all our focus in innovating would be to bring this frictionless experience that platform from our side can facilitate. And it can be combined with the several features that platform support, as long as the end goal would be to make payments invisible for our guests.
Okay, so payments, always a point of pain, sad to say, can be really, not something that the customer is aware of, because at the end of the day, who goes on to Booking.com to make a payment? No, they're on
Nobody
there
wants to lose their money, right?
to find somewhere nice to stay. Yeah. So on your side then, SUZANA, innovation. It sounds like there's quite a lot of innovation just in trying to make the seamless experience when you're increasing security in such a significant way with 3D Secure 2.0. But is there innovation in that?
We are working on a very new and innovative technology. Of course, there's innovation. We have a big challenge to help the merchants and integrate this new protocol. And as I mentioned, we have all the 3DS components in etc. We won gold transaction in innovation because we had the first transaction end-to-end with MasterCard credit card and via our ACS. And this was a really big success for us. This technology is very new and innovative, and we want to help all our customers have a very good seamless experience into integrating it, and then our indirect customers have a seamless and frictionless payments.
Are you needing to educate people on this? Is this something that your customers kind of get straight up, or are you actually having to engage in significant educational work just to get them to see the challenge?
There is no significant work. Our products are already certified and they are ready to use by our customers. But of course, there is an onboarding and integration process that they need to do, and we offer a seamless experience to them and help the integration.
Fantastic. So we've had questions coming in from the audience. We've tried to address and answer some of those. But for those people who haven't been using the app, or for anyone who has a question directly from the hall, can I open it up? Questions for the panelists? Anyone hiding behind the podium? No? No more questions? So in that case, I'd like to thank, obviously, those people who have submitted questions. Thank you very much. You've certainly helped to our discussion. I'd like to thank the speakers and panelists for putting together great sessions. So thank you all very much. It's now time for a break. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.